Today I'm going to be giving you my top 10 Dragon's Dogma 2 advanced tips that you need to know in your game if you are wanting to get the most out of it. Now, first things first, we're going to start off with something as a little bonus extra tip, an 11th tip if you will, that I wish I'd known about earlier because this is very helpful, and that is simply going into your camera settings and changing the distance of your camera. So you can go into options here, go down to camera settings. On the first page, it's near towards the bottom here, you can set the camera distance. Sliding the cursor to the right pulls the camera further away from the player, so you can see I play now with mine on the furthest distance away, but by default it is in the middle. Obviously you can change this closer or further as you wish to, but it is worth knowing about because it is very useful, especially with certain vocations. Next thing here then is the Warfarer vocation. Now this one is fantastic for a number of reasons. Firstly, it will level up all of the other vocations at once while you are using the Warfarer vocation. So if you want to level everything at the same time, then this is a super powerful and very quick way to do so. I say very quick way, obviously if you simply play one class and focus on that, it will be faster, but the Warfarer does the rest of them all at the same time. Now, the way it does this is it will give around half of your discipline points earned to the actual Warfarer vocation, and then split the rest evenly among all other unlocked and non-maxed vocations. So as you can see here, I have actually unlocked every single vocation in the game. However, I do have the Mystic Spear Hand at max vocation. So what it's going to do is give roughly around half the discipline points I earn per kill to the Warfarer vocation itself. As you can see, that is now rank 4, and then split the rest between the others. Now, I've played a bit of Thief and a bit of Warrior individually, as well as the Mystic Spear Hand, so they're almost max level, and when they get there, they will stop splitting the points as well, and it will go to the other ones. But as you can see, I've got to rank 4, and these still haven't gone up from rank 1, and I did have everything unlocked when I started playing the Warfarer for that purpose. But what that does mean is if you do want to level up all of the other ones at once, unlock them, and if there's certain ones that you don't want to level up, for example, any of the advanced vocations, the Sorcerer, the Warrior, the Mystic Spearhead, the Magic Archer, or the Trickster, simply don't unlock them until you want to start gaining points for them, either from themselves or through the Warfarer, because the Warfarer just give discipline points to the ones that are unlocked, so use that as you will. And then, of course, like I mentioned there, once they are maxed, it seems like they're not going to quote-unquote steal the XP or the discipline points when you are getting kills, so that also is a pretty cool feature. Now, it's worth noting that with the Warfarer, you can of course get all of the core skills from all of the other abilities that you have unlocked, and you can equip up to 9 weapons with the Warfarer. Now, granted, you can only equip 3 weapon skills, so it will only allow you to equip 3, and you need to have the 4th one to be the rearmament, because that allows you to switch weapons. So you can choose any other 3 from any of the other weapons that you have equipped that you want to use. However, it is still limited to those 3 essentially. But what it does allow you to do is still switch to the other weapons and use the core skills for that weapon. So, for example, you can see here Steeled Foundation from the Warrior class. If you've got a sword and shield equipped and you're falling from a great height, or you want to jump down from a particularly tall place, what you can do is switch to your sword and shield, and although you may not have any skills for it, as you can see there, for mouse and keyboard players, it is press a right click when falling from a height, and it will reduce the fall damage you take. So that is still available to you even though you don't have direct weapon skills, and that is the same for all of the other classes in the game as well. Now this leads nicely on to my next point here, which is Bump and Lift. This is a Thief vocation skill and is very useful, because what this actually does is give you a chance on basic attacks known as the Carve to actually have a low success rate chance to rob the target of an item when an attack connects. Now this is obviously more useful on the bigger foes, so any of your boss enemies, because they have more health, you're simply going to be hitting them more times, and this is especially helpful for drakes, for the scales, and for the worm life crystals, because you can steal both of those. Now, some fights I've gone through, I've not got any of them. Some fights I've gone through, I've had a couple of procs and got an extra 5 or 10 crystals, or a couple of extra dragon scales here and there, so it is really worth using. And yes, this does work with the Warfarer vocation if you are using the daggers on that class as well. So as you can see for my setup right now, I'm mainly using the daggers with Easy Kill and Skull Splitter on there, and then a little bit of Barrage Shot, because I'm going to get onto the Medusa's Bow very shortly as well, and that is what that one is for. So I did mention the Medusan Spellbow there. This is a very good item. Again, this works with the Warfarer vocation, and of course you can use one of your skills if you want to, or just use more basic and heavy attacks. Now what the Medusan Spellbow does is give you around a 400% increase to the XP that you will get. Now, note that this is XP and not discipline points, so if you're not particularly bothered about leveling up, you might want to give this one a miss, because as you can see in the top right of the screen there, this one is 16.19 kilograms, and that is with 2 upgrades added to it. So it's a very, very heavy weapon. What I would recommend doing if you are going to use this is upgrade it 3 times as fast as you possibly can once you've got the materials and the gold, and then Dragonforge it, because Dragonforging this will actually cut in half the weight, which makes this a lot more accessible of a weapon and will allow you to get those XP gains at not too much of a cost to the rest of your build. So this is a very, very good weapon, and you simply need to kill Medusa in order to be able to get this. Now, if you are wondering where you can find Medusa, if you go down to the Bakbatal area, so we have a look at Bakbatal City here, you want to go simply to the left and then down on the map, and you will see here that we have the Caligonius Depths. Now, this one is, of course, where you will find Medusa. You'll have to follow this pathway specifically here because you need to cross this bridge over the river. You follow the little winding path. You'll start to see some kind of stone sculptures around here, which is obviously enemies that she has petrified with her gaze, and then you follow this little path into the cave here. Now, do be aware, in this boss fight, of course, you can be petrified, so you do want to make sure that you're staying out of her gaze, as well as your pawns are staying out of the gaze, because if you are petrified, you will die instantly. There's some really good equipment you can use for this, such as a shield that will reflect back that gaze to her, which can be found in Vernworth Castle, but the item I've used to be most successful in this fight is a ring that I found off one of the travelling vendors, and it's called the Ring of Motility. This one completely prevents the wearer's petrification value from accumulating, so you don't even have to avoid it. Now, I would recommend bringing some sort of slash weapon, because you want to basically climb up Medusa and then just attack them on the head, and that will get you the kill the fastest. And they can also drop you a Medusa's head, which you can use to petrify an enemy, and it will instantly kill any enemy that you use it on. However, you won't get the materials for doing it. So that's another bonus when you are trying to get the Medusan Spellbow. Now, when you're on your travels out and about around the world of Dragon's Dogma 2, you will always see these pawns that will just walk up to you, try and speak to you, say they want to join your party, etc. And even if you don't want to hire them, what you can actually do is pick them up, and this also works with any other NPCs as well, but particularly people like guards are useful to do this with. You can pick up the NPC, and then you can either E to release them, or wherever console you're on, the respective button to release this NPC next to some enemies, or of course you can throw them, and that will just lob them onto the floor into the direction of enemies, hopefully, and then they will fight alongside you. So you can use that to be guards if you're low level, but one thing that's particularly useful when you're roaming around in some of the more kind of extraneous locations in Dragon's Dogma 2 where there isn't many guards around, things like that, you're in the wilderness a bit more, you will often find other people's random pawns just roaming the roads, so you can just pick them up and bring them with you, and it's essentially a 4th pawn for free that you don't need to pay any rift crystals for to hire, and you can just bring them with you into the fight and they will fight alongside you. Now, obviously they can still die and they will just disappear into the rift if they do, but you haven't really lost anything, seeing as though they were never part of your group to start with. So this is a really useful tactic, particularly if you've got a boss enemy that you need a little bit of extra help defeating, or you just want it to be a little bit faster. Now, you can see just in front of me there is a stone bridge there, but in the world there will be some random wooden rickety bridges that you will come across. Now, if you do come across these, you can simply shoot both of the posts on them, and this will actually mean that the bridge will collapse. Now, this can obviously be used to make it into more of a ladder, or of course trap an enemy. Although, note with this that as with most destructible things in the game, these bridges will respawn after a few in-game days, so of course if you do destroy it and wish you hadn't, just sleep or rest for a few days and it will come back into the game fully functional as a bridge it was once before. Now, another thing with the Thief class, obviously if you are the Warfarer you can use this ability as well, and it is one of the fastest movement techniques in the game at the cost of absolutely 0 stamina. So basically what you're going to do is the Swift Step and the Carve combo. For these, you can see Swift Step on the PC is the right click, which is the kind of dodge forward button that you have there, and then Carve is of course the left click attack. So what you can do is press the Swift Step, then attack, then Swift Step, attack, Swift Step, attack, Swift Step, attack, and you can constantly keep moving forward, and as you can see, my stamina bar is not depleting whatsoever, so you can very easily get around the map very, very quickly with this ability. Like I say, I am on the Warfarer there, and this does still work as long as you've got some daggers equipped, so this is a very, very useful way that you can use to get around the map in general, but also very good during fights if you do want to do so without using up some stamina. The pawn specialization for the Forager is very, very good. Once you have a pawn with it equipped, be it your main pawn or another player's one, if you speak to one of the merchants that can do the equipment enhancement section, so either the blacksmith or the armorer or anyone like that, who will actually allow you to upgrade your gear, it will then pinpoint on the map where each material is. So you can see here that my main pawn has the Forager specialization, and it says the pawn who acquires this skill will mark the location of enhancement materials on the map. This is particularly useful because you can simply go on and have a look. Okay, I need this material, I also need some of the ones that are over here, and actually if you go onto the marker on the map, you can interact with it and it will tell you which material it is that is there that you're looking for. So this one is bolt scale, this one down here is a dragon scale, and the one back over here would be a fell lord's bone. Now it will list all over the map where you can get each of these materials. As you can see right at the bottom here, I can get the foaming slime if I want to go and travel all the way down to the volcanic island. So this is a very, very useful pawn specialization to have, and on top of this, it doesn't do anything else annoying like the Logisticism, where it constantly is combining stuff even if you don't want it to, so that is always a bonus as well. If you do want to find out how you can get any of these specializations, I have lots of videos already on the channel. Feel free to go ahead and watch them if you would like to get hands-on with any of them that you do want. The next thing here is that if you click the combine button in your inventory and switch over to from experiment to the use recipe section, you can actually see all of the recipes that are available in the game. Now while at first this seems like a pretty simple explanation of what there is in the game, it can be very, very useful because you can see if certain items like the saurian tail here is actually needed for anything else. So you can see it's exquisitive rubrant and it's also miracle rubrant, but you're not going to waste it by using it on those things, so you know that you can go ahead and make them as you want to. It's also really good for things like these bunches of flowers here, showing you that you can make them with the sun bloom and the noon bloom, or you can make them with sun bloom and moon glow, or of course noon bloom and moon glow. This is particularly useful if you are trying to get your NPC's affinity raised, because lots of NPCs actually really like the bunches of flowers, so knowing how to make them is super useful. And as a quick extra tip with this, if you want to know what an NPC actually likes, go over to the history tab, NPC logbook, look up which NPC you want. There is a tab at the top that says all. You can switch this over to Vernworth, Vital, the Eggman Volcanic Island, other, and always on the move, so you can narrow down your search to whichever NPC you want. If you hover over them, let's take Abba here, and it says likes beautiful items and fancy items, and the flowers, or the bunch of flowers, does come under the beautiful items category, and a lot of NPCs will be on this. You can see a lot of them here like that sort of thing, so it's a really, really good way to get on top of this. Alright then, so another really important tip here then is the Dragonforged NPC, just over by the Riftstone of Remembrance and the Bay Wayside Shrine. I've actually put a portal crystal here, but you don't have to. It's pretty close to Bakbatal. Actually, if you come through Bakbatal and out past the sort of dye fields here, you'll actually be able to walk your way down and through the beach. You will have to fight some enemies on the way, but it's not too difficult, and you can get to this place here, which of course is where the Dragonforged NPC is. Now remember, if you are in New Game Plus, in other words you've completed the game once already, you will be able to get some very, very good stuff from this guy. So firstly, receive a blessing. This one will either give you for one full day increased experience gain, increased discipline gain, which a lot of people really, really like. For one full day, your stamina recovery speed will increase, and for one full day, you will find it easier to increase people's affinity for you. All of these, of course, have their uses. Naturally, the best one is going to be the vocational flare one here. However, they do cost 30 worm life crystals. Now, you can also, of course, go to the trading section here, where you can buy up to 3 fairy stones. You can also buy a port crystal once per run through on this one as well, which costs you 20 worm life crystals. However, I've already bought mine for this run through. You can also then, if you've already passed the end game section, all of those very, very good, if not best in-game weapons and armors can be available in your New Game Plus. As you can see here, the actual Dragon's Dogma weapon is available, but you will need to get up those worm life crystals. So of course, you can see I've got 12 on me right now, got a few in the bank that I could bring over, but not enough to get this Dragon's Dogma, so I will have to farm some dragons if I want to be able to get this. You can see all of the weapons are 110 worm life crystals, the shield here is 40, and then it generally goes headpieces as 20, chest pieces as 70, and legs or boots as 30 worm life crystals. So if you're wanting to get a full set including a weapon, it's going to cost you around 230 worm life crystals, and then of course the same for your main pawn if you want to do that the same, so you're looking at around 460. plus the blessings and other stuff we're going to touch on here in just a moment. But it is worth noting that this is still all available for you, and if you are playing the Warfarer, of course you can wear whichever outfit, whichever piece of armor you would like. Just pay attention to the weight, and then of course the defense, magic defense, and all of the other resistances and such that it has available. Now note as well, this is where you can of course enhance your equipment if you do have something up to 3. Like you can see here, my Gazer's hood for the thief is up to 3, and I can Dragonforge this for 5 worm life crystals. This is the same for any piece of equipment if you've got it up to 3. Now you'll see what it does is cut the weight in half, which is why the Medusan bow is so important to do, because it weighs 16, that cuts it down to 8. And you'll also see it does give a big augment to the defenses. This is even better on weapons because it will give a huge increase. You can see Medusan Spellbow would go down to 8 weight capacity, and then depending on what I upgrade that last one, it would give me a strength and magic increase as well. So this isn't to be slept on. You definitely want to make sure you're worm forging things when you can. It's also worth noting that you can reset the enhancement of an item. So if you've done something like you can see here, I've got 2 Vermundian enhancements on my frosted edges right here. If I decided actually I want to go and get dwarven ones instead, it literally costs you 1 worm life crystal to reset these, so you can go ahead and refresh it if you do want to as well and start over. Of course you will need the gold and the materials to start from scratch with them, so you don't get those back, but it can clear it if you think that you've messed up, so don't be afraid of just upgrading for the time being and coming back, although it does waste the materials, so obviously consider that too. Now a couple of other things that are really crucially important with the Dragonforged NPC is both the vocation improvement, which will boost the status increase when leveling up, and you can apply this to any of the vocations, including of course the Warfarer, and as well as this, the improve skill, so you can pick any of the skills that you have from any of the classes, and what it will do is half the stamina consumed when using or casting that skill. So for me, what I'm going to go ahead and do is go over to the Skull Splitter one and just use it on here so that I can spam this as much as possible, and this doesn't have a set time limit on it. It's just until you use another skill to get upgraded or vocation to get upgraded, so then of course you can keep these going for as long as you would like to. Super worthwhile on the vocation one if you are going to be using the Warfarer to level up everything else in the game. Now finally here, I'm just going to touch on the fact that you should do the end game of the Unmoored world when you can, as firstly it's very fun. It's also quite challenging, especially if it's your first run through of the game. I found this pretty difficult. I went in around the level 35 mark and it was pretty challenging. There's quite a lot of very difficult enemies, and it is a timed quest, so you can't stay in there for too long, but there is some very cool enemies to fight, lots of worm life crystals to be had, as well as other really good loot and more high tier enemies spawning all around the map, which is fantastic for getting some of those upgrade materials that you might need for your end game armor and weapons. But once you've done this Unmoored world, I'm not going to go into too much detail in this particular video on how to get there and what to do, but I will do that in a future upload, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel for that. What you will have access to in your New Game Plus is actually all of the weapons from all of the armories across the map, even in Vernworth right at the start of the game. So if you go to the merchant there, you will be able to pick up any of the items that they have for sale that could have been in Back Batal, could have been in the Volcanic Island camp, so you don't need to continuously go across the map. And that is, of course, because if you haven't been here yet, slight spoiler warning for this next section, but all of the merchants from around the map do come to that camp for you, so then you have access to all of their weapons in the New Game Plus, which just kind of makes sense. Very cool feature. And of course in New Game Plus you do have access to the Dragonforged weapons and armour as well, which is slightly better than all of those, but they do cost worm life crystals as opposed to gold, so depending which you are richer on in currency, you can of course use some of the other weapons until you get the Dragon Crystal ones instead. Now of course having access to these weapons and armours in the New Game Plus at any vendor that you go to makes trying new classes or all of the classes with the Warfarer even better and much more fun, so you definitely want to get on that as soon as possible. Now one quick tip if you are going to the Unmoored world is that sleeping will heal you, but it does progress the timed quest, so use it sparingly, especially if it's your first time going through this and you haven't realised what's happening yet. Pay attention to the fact that the red storms will keep expanding and eventually take over areas of the map, and then you can no longer go there until you've completed that section of the end game. So bear that in mind. It is a timed quest, but it is very cool. So that is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully these advanced tips and tricks have helped you out. Maybe you've learned something new, or maybe it's giving you a good reminder on some of the stuff that you could be doing in the game. If you've got any additional advanced tips and tricks, do drop them in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, do drop me a like and a subscribe. Both those things massively help me out and I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, I'll catch you again very shortly in a brand new upload. So take care and peace.